It's a new year and it's time for you face the music. Well, I do not hate Taylor Swift. What happened to the balloon pop and the market falling apart?
I think people are just in a wait and see mode to see how a new administration is going to handle the economy.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, John.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Who's that girl?
Phoebe Best.
What's up, Phoebe Best?
Not much.
Phoebe Best happens to be a Smith & Bollinger real estate agent. She's a fantastic buyer agent, so we thought we'd bring her in and talk to her a bit. We're here with Ryan Fitzgerald from Prosperity Mortgage. I've only been sitting down with him for I don't know how long.
Couple years.
All right, guys, before we get started, I have some stuff just to get off my chest.
Okay.
I went back and looked at all of our podcasts, all the comments that we ever got. First of all, I do not hate Taylor Swift. Okay, do I think she jacked up the music industry? Maybe a little bit. But I do like her. I think she has an ugly-ass boyfriend, and I'm not sure why that dude is her together. Ugly dudes can pull good-looking girls nowadays. I don't understand it. That dude, she should have... The Gronk. She should have dated the Gronk.
Oh, God.
Right? She should have went with the Gronk.
It's confidence. He took a shot. He had confidence. He won.
He looks like a Viking, and he's got his own damn podcast, and he actually makes money at it.
Yes, lots of money.
I know, right?
Lots of money.
And the sad thing about it is they're actually good. Matt's so worried that I'm going to make fun of a Kansas City Chief tight end, and there's going to be repercussions.
It's not for me. It's Jackson over there. He's got a Chiefs flag flying at the house.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying the only reason I watch Kansas City games is to see if Taylor Swift shows up.
You're that guy.
You damn right I'm that guy.
That's fair.
Okay, do you like football that much?
I do.
Do you?
Does this all boil down to podcast envy, though?
Oh, so much. So, well, if somebody would just pay me $1, I'd make $1
Oh, there
more
you
than I
go.
did
There you
yesterday doing my podcast. That's
There
really
you go.
beautiful. So, guys, I think we just kind of wanted to start the new year off with a new season. Of
Yep.
course, always bringing Ryan in to talk about what everybody really wants to hear is about what's going on with the real estate community and the real estate process and, that evil Darth Vader statue on the shelf of interest rates.
Yep.
And, everybody has a theory. I did bring in a balloon. Okay. And my whole idea was to pop it because what happened to the balloon popping? What happened to the balloon popping? The market falling apart. What happened to it?
We've
what
talked
happened
about
to interest
this.
rates? What happened to everything? Everything was, this market's, everybody's going to go in foreclosures. I don't care what we talked about. It's a new year and it's time for you face the music.
I never said the balloon was going to pop.
I know.
All right, so maybe the projections on mortgage rates the last couple of years didn't end up as where the projections were. That's why we stopped looking at crystal balls. But yeah, the pop that everybody's waiting for is not coming. And it really has to do with the fact that the guidelines for mortgages are vastly different from the last housing crisis back in 05 to 08 territory, because the way we underwrite loans and ensure that these people can afford these mortgages, the foreclosure numbers are not going up.
Inventory's still low. Although in some states,
But it's coming.
in some states, their inventories jump tremendously.
Yes.
Parts of Texas, Florida, they overbuilt.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of new houses sitting on the market. But most states we needed more inventory. So if it goes up 20% from where you start, you still have a buyer's market, seller's market. Sorry.
Everybody's thinking there's going to be a burst and it's going to drop numbers drastically in prices. But that's not going to happen because the foreclosure rate's not going to go skyrocketing, because even if there were problems with making the payment, the other side of it is these people have equity.
Right.
They can just sell.
Right.
Rather than the housing crisis before, the loans were situated so they were underwater and you were looking at short sales and foreclosures because they couldn't make the payment and then they couldn't get out of the house.
Right.
So describe underwater. Is it basically your loan looks like a ship turned upside down and you owe more?
Yeah, you
got more water in the ship than you do air.
Yeah, you can't get out of the house without having to pay.
That's what happened in the previous one.
That's what happened in the big crisis.
The elephant in the room, as far as inventory goes, is 3% mortgages.
3% mortgages, people sticking around.
Why would you? You don't have to sell.
How do you give up that 3% mortgage? There's a lot of people out there who would have made that next step in life. They've gotten a promotion since they got their house, or they've had more kids, and they're just looking and like, I would like a bigger backyard.
Right.
And they would have moved by now. But like you're saying, they're sitting on a 3.5% mortgage and looking at doubling that to 7%. And that's just too much for them. So they're going to stay. Whereas in past history, they would have been a traditional mover and upgrading the house.
They'll remodel the house instead of selling it.
They'll spend it around the house.
Yeah.
The money they have.
I don't want to get too political here. We try to stay away from politicals, but what do you think the effect of the smartest man, self-proclaimed of the world, is going to do for the United States and the housing problem?
I think in the very short term, it's not necessarily even him or who's being, inaugurated on Monday. It's just that it's happening. So I think
people are waiting to see.
Just the benchmarks are
besides
happening.
obviously the president, is there the change is happening of a different outlook of leadership, or
no, just pure in fact the inauguration. Just like we talked about when it was election time.
Yep.
It didn't matter who was going to get elected. People are just after the election we saw an increase in applications.
Okay.
After the first of the year, I've seen an increase in applications.
We've seen a lot more activity after the first of the year in listings that we have, and we've put a few in contract already. So I'm seeing that too. I don't know if it was just the normal slowdown that happens from Thanksgiving to the New Year.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to, half the country's snowing and freezing, and that's normal. But here we don't have that issue. But I think that right now, I think people are just in a wait and see mode to see how a new administration is going to handle the economy.
do you think it's a calming effect? It's kind of probably a terrible word for it, but do you think, okay, fine, now we know who the president's going to be. Now we can relax a little bit and go about our everyday business. It's going to be what it's going to be.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's
So
definitely
For half the people.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, and then the other half are probably nervous, but
But I think even the people the other half, who might not agree with who got elected, it's over.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Right.
It'll be what it'll be.
But we're still kind of dealing with that. I mean, I just talked to a client yesterday, and he was very concerned with tariffs, and I'm like, I don't think that we're going to deal with tariffs to the point where it's really going to be a problem. I think it's a negotiating tactic more than anything. But there again, it's a wait and see to find out if something's going to happen or not. Because if it does, everything's going to get more expensive or inflationary. It's going to be a rate problem, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And that's going to hurt the real estate market.
Phoebe,
for sure.
Did you have something to see? I saw an eyebrow raise.
No, I'm just over here in the corner.
Okay. Well, just
Take it in. Take it in, right?
Phoebe's smart out of all of us. She's not even going to comment. She's like, I don't have nothing to do with this. So I want to ask, because I ask it every time I think I see you, are we ever going to go below 4 again? What would it take?
A massive recession.
It would take a big economic event, not just change, not just a shift in change in policy and thought, but a massive event would take it.
Like a
Okay,
COVID-like
so
event.
chances
A
are
COVID style.
So what is normal? Is 5 normal? Is 6 normal? 7 normal? Because let me tell you,
50-year average is over 7.
Yeah. So why?
So yeah,
But houses weren't as expensive as they are now. So
there's
that's
the
the
key.
struggle that people are having, especially first-time home buyers, where first-time home buyers, 30 years ago, maybe it was a $135,000 house. So the rates weren't as impactful, but incomes haven't kept up with the increase in value of homes. So now a first-time home buyer is looking at a $350,000, $400,000 house here in Tucson, and coming up with the down payment, coming up with the closing costs, coming up with all that other stuff, where incomes haven't kept up at the same percentage rate as values have gone up, it just becomes more difficult. And it's not just housing; everything is more expensive. So
the price of eggs are ridiculous.
yeah, everything is expensive. So it's a little bit more of a challenge. But I mean, do you think you're going to see more gifts from people to qualify, say parents, grandparents, for first-time home buyers?
that could be the means to solve that
To
problem.
get into a house.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
then start that cycle of upgrading a house at some point.
It's a great way if you have the ability, if you have the family member to do that. It's a great way to start the cycle and get in the door. It's such situational.
Yeah.
You know, a gift is such a situational proposition for buyers.
What's the biggest gift you can get? Obviously, besides purchasing the house. I mean, as far as for a down payment, is there is there a limit?
I'm not a tax attorney, or a tax accountant, or
Okay, well,
CPA, so
no.
I wouldn't answer that question.
No, but if your lender requirements have a minimum, a
No,
maximum.
there's
I'm
no
sorry.
guidelines as far as
just
gift
can't-
amount on the lending side.
You can't
Okay,
have to
that's
pay
what
it
I was
back.
looking for.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
there
it has
is.
to count towards your debt to income.
Got it, got
Yeah,
it.
the
Okay.
rule is we document it as a gift from a family member to the buyer, and it has to be a gift with no expectation of repayment, and they both sign a document stating that.
So it sounds like to me there could be tax implications here, possibly. So make sure you talk to your accountant.
Yes,
before
I
you do
advise
that.
always when talking about gift matters to talk to the correct
Interesting.
professionals.
Okay.
But
So
you asked what's the new norm.
right.
You know, what's the new norm? I don't think we know yet.
Okay.
Projections, you know, if you look at projections across the board of all the people who make projections on what interest rates will be and won't be, the average of all those projections ending 2025, so a year from now, would be like 6.33 was the average.
Okay.
So that's not necessarily the new norm. That's just where we think we might end 2025.
Yeah,
So
that's-
if it got to that, do you think it would pick up? It would.
I think if it has 6 in front of it, it'll pick up.
Yeah.
No, but
I
here's the
mean-
problem with that. Okay, and this is at least for while I've been in real estate. Okay, and you guys can tell me if you see something that I'm not understanding. But when interest rates go down, prices go up. You still have the same
because
report.
demand goes up.
You got
Yeah.
you got the same problem of affordability.
That's where the inventory comes in.
Yeah.
If
Now-
you had more inventory, then it
You
would
could
be harder
withstand
to
that.
affect that demand to push prices.
So where's the inventory? Matt, where's the inventory?
It's sitting on
That
3%
3%.
mortgages.
Exactly. It's
Or,
being held
or,
hostage.
Or a new build.
or new builds. New builds are what, like 30% of the market now,
It's
typically
high.
13.
It's high.
So they're almost
Well, what advantage do
tripling
they
what
have?
it normally
What advantage
is.
do they have?
they are buying rates down and
their quantity.
incentives.
They have the quantity. They have the ability to purchase everything in large quantities. So when they build, they're building on a massive scale, and they turn that over on the lending side as well. So they offer phenomenal deals through special incentives to buyers for interest rates, for closing costs, for everything, and that just kind of puts their head above the water for everybody else and gets them the starting advantage for buyers.
Okay, wherever there's an upside, there's a downside. Is that creating a downside for anybody? Because the new builders are well, they make less money, but at
Right.
least they're making money.
Right.
Buyers get to take advantage of
Well,
it.
they're just trying to move inventory.
Yeah, they're just
I
trying
mean,
to
they're
get through their inventory.
they're a
Right.
cash flow business,
Right.
And that's all they care about. They
They-
can't sit on lots of inventory.
Yeah, they want the lots off the books as quick as they can.
If you
And
picture
so-
like say 10 houses on one street that are sitting, they're spec homes now. They're not, purchased before they're built.
right.
If you have a situation like that and that starts to build up, they have to cut the price on those houses, which affects what? The other 200 lots that they have down the road. So they want to move those things through as fast as they can so that you're not sitting on a lot of inventory. It's more of a cash flow game with new builds than it is anything else.
Well, I think we need to do a whole episode on new builds because, I mean, it can be tricky for a buyer if they go in there unrepresented and they can walk out not
Yeah.
very successful,
Well,
whether they realize it at that time or not.
And the rules are such that if a prospective buyer goes to a new build community without a realtor representative and they see the house, then they can't be represented by a realtor.
Right.
They're represented by the employee agent of the builder.
Well, I think they could be represented, just that they would just have to pay their own agent.
Well, they could do that, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's-
typically that's another cost that people aren't really
Well, no,
willing
not
to
in our
take on.
community. I
aren't going
mean,
to be able to afford. Yeah,
not in this community,
No.
right? I mean, no offense, but we do pretty good for our little town. But we're looking at the average wage.
yeah.
It's just a lot
Well,
of
there's a
per
lot
count.
more protection if they bring somebody, a realtor with them to register the first time at a new home community. They get a lot more protection in terms of they use their own contracts, but
Yeah.
to have somebody that's familiar with real estate contracts. But it's not just that; it's pre-phase inspections, things like that a realtor would definitely tell you, you know what, you should probably have this looked at before they cover it up by somebody who's licensed to do it. Versus if you're represented by the builder employee, what's their incentive? It's to get it finished and get it closed.
Phoebe,
Get
do you
the
own a
result.
home?
Yes.
Okay. Was it a new home when you bought it, or was it
An existing.
an
house.
No, it was
existing?
existing.
Why do you remember why you decided to go that route instead of a new build?
Yes. No homeowners association.
Oh, you didn't want an HOA,
Yes.
right? Nothing's
Yes.
being built right now without an HOA.
No.
Not a chance.
No,
No.
unless you're on a custom.
There's another
Custom
thing
build,
that-
yeah. Custom build would be one that
The
would
builders control the HOA until it's turned over
be.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
For a while.
Right, and then it gets established by the residents as far as the team.
And
after the
so,
fact,
but
it's
if you're
turned over.
early in the project, if you're one of the first phases of a big build, you could be under the builder's HOA for quite a while.
I think with the incentives that builders have out there right now, it's really attractive
Oh, yeah,
for
it's definitely.
buyers. I think that the risk that you could run depends on how quickly you may need to move.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to build and you're early on, like Ryan was just talking about, and you get those incentives up front, by the time they're finished, the incentives might not be there, but they might take 3 years before they finish a development. If you have to sell and compete in the same neighborhood with the incentives that the builder's able to offer, the only thing you have is to cut your price.
Yeah, you become resale against.
Well, or
new
your
build.
availability is, you don't have to wait for your house.
That's the other thing. It depends on if they have spec homes available or not. Yeah.
Okay,
and they're
things are
going more to
busy,
spec.
They are more. There's
A
more
lot,
of them out
or
there.
at least pre-planned, like assigning floor plans to lots.
And nothing changes.
Yeah,
You can't
this
change-
is.
it's-
It used to be pick a lot, pick a design, pick a floor plan,
Pick a countertop.
pick everything, and now it's more.
This is the lot. This
This
is the house.
this
that
is
goes
the
on that
house,
lot.
or at least this is the house you get on that lot, and so. But I'll say I bought a new build, so
Okay,
I'm
okay.
a owner of a new build. We were actually just looking, and it was built as a spec, or was being built as a spec, and it just fit our need.
You fell
best.
in love.
But I will tell you, I had an agent, and I would say,
Wasn't
you
us.
know, during COVID, you guys weren't getting paid on those deals, right?
Right.
When they can when the builders can move their inventory real quickly, they pull back on paying buyers agents. Right now, they're not doing that,
Right.
and so anybody looking at a new build should definitely be using their own agents, their own representation, because it is extremely helpful to have somebody in your corner in that situation, especially if the builder is going to pay for that service.
Right.
So, new builds have their own lender.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Their lending process is a little different. Only the fact that sometimes do they hold those notes themselves?
No.
Or do they?
I don't believe so. I'm not.
Because
couldn't
they
tell
can
you
come up with
'cause
these
I'm not-
amazing
But you can
rates,
use
right?
any lender, right?
That was my next
Typically?
question.
Oh, you can always use any lender.
But you're
There-
not going to match those rates.
I can't. It's hard to compete. Now
Okay.
there are at one point. I don't know. I don't want to quote it now, but there are some lenders who occasionally let the incentives go to any lender, so you can pick your lender.
certain builders.
And
Oh, wouldn't that be
so
great?
there are certain builders who allow that. It's very few.
Yeah.
Most of them, you get the incentives
They're
because of
in-house
the
people.
relationship. But yes, a buyer can use any lender they want. It's just the incentives that the lenders are offering because of that relationship are just too hard to compete.
All right, I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. Okay, we're still going to talk the housing market here,
Mhm.
but I kind of really want to start this season off by maybe offering a little help to a newer agent or another agent that might be struggling at this time. What can an agent in this business do right now to work in this market? And you can give us your opinion from the lending side as well, because you see agents every single day. What would you think, Matt?
Oof. I mean, it's no different than any other time. I think it's just building relationships. I think it's having a presence where people are seeing agents if they don't have one already. So social media, stuff like that. Or you join up with somebody who knows what they're doing and you just kind of not reinvent the wheel and you work with a team. That's a good
Yeah.
way to get in.
Yeah, what do you think, Ryan? Do you have an opinion?
I see a
on
lot
that?
of successful agents start with a team and get in that way and get some guidance, get a template to work off of.
Mentor.
Yeah, mentor. Obviously, the age old is open house.
Yeah.
Okay.
For buyers, for sure.
How's open houses going, Phoebe? Do you getting any traffic at open houses?
Yeah, a lot more than a few months ago.
Okay, so open houses could be ineffective.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my tip: get off your ass,
Yeah.
go to work, start working on your business yesterday, because we started working on our business 6 months before the year ended, preparing for the next month. You've got to work your business. You've got to show up. Okay, no one's gonna come beat on your door and say, "Hey, I want you to sell my house," unless you let them know you're capable of doing so.
Right.
It goes back to the same exact stuff that we always talk about. Go to work. The world is your office. Go meet people. Start making relationships.
Do the right things because it's the right thing.
Right.
And build trust with people and build relationships with people. I mean, it's no different than any other business.
Kiss, baby, shake hands, talk to people, have communications. Let people know what you're about. Listen, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. We all know that. Okay? But how would they know that if they didn't spend any time with me? Okay?
Right.
Listen, if I rub you wrong, the best part about it is I have an agent for you that will probably fit your needs.
Right.
Okay? Whether it's a new agent, an experienced agent, we have that for you.
Yep.
Okay? I know, like I said, not everyone wants to be locked in a car with me for 2 hours. All right? I know that's a lot of sugar and a lot of caffeine.
Just try to have them meet you there.
Right.
See you at the house.
See you there. Man, you guys are brutal. But I just wanted to, if you're a new agent or if you're an agent that's struggling, just go to work. And if you don't know where to go to work, go find somebody that needs some help.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I find in my business, when I'm busy, my business is busy. But if I just sit home, watch Netflix, and just kick my feet back, I got no work.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
It's like the karma of the real estate world, right? Okay, you ain't gonna do anything, you're not gonna get anything.
And you can't slow down your process because you're busy now. Like, in other words, the process of building the next thing. You always have to be working towards that next month or 2 months or 3 months.
It's more
down the
important.
road.
It's so hard, and I talk about this with some other agents that I meet with on a regular basis, but it's so hard to stay in the business of getting the business.
Yeah.
You've got to stay
Especially
there.
when you're working stuff.
Even when the business is going, even
Yeah.
when the deals you're in the middle of transactions and you're working the transaction, a lot comes up, but you have to work on prioritizing getting the business.
Yeah.
Because that transaction has a closing date.
Yep.
And if you
If you're
weren't
not
working on
prepared for
getting
it.
the business before you hit that closing date, you're going to have that lull.
Yeah.
For
the roller
for
coaster
a
ride
month.
of
And that
business.
lull is where what you're talking about. That's where you get into the not doing anything.
Well, that's
You hit the lull, and then
You go, I've got 5 in escrow. This
yeah,
is great.
I just closed 3 deals, and so if I sit at home for 2 weeks and I don't go in the office or I don't hold an open house or something, I'll be all right because I just got 3 checks. But then you're not working on getting the business. So, even for me, it's the same way for me. Not as an agent, but as a mortgage consultant, if I'm not constantly working on trying to get business from agents, even when the business is over, I'll have a lull, and the roller coaster ride is not fun.
Oh, it's terrible. You got to work on what I kind of call your downline, right?
Yeah.
Matt and I always talk about, we never talk about what we're closing next month.
No.
We always talk 2 or 3 months down the road. What do we got in March? We got nothing in March. We need to get something in March. We want to set ourselves up for success so we can get a check a week. That's our goal.
Right.
Our real estate business has a goal of receiving a check a week, like a normal paycheck. In order for us to do that, we have to work twice as hard.
Yeah.
Okay. And people think, oh, you're on a team, you have all this money flowing in. Well, yeah, you're responsible for 3 deals. I'm responsible for 15 at a time. Okay. So you think you're pulling your hair out. Well, look what happened to Matt. Okay. That's what.
What about Ryan?
Well, I didn't want to bring
Come
that
on
up.
now.
Okay. He
Come on now. Well,
he
I
lived
haven't
through
gotten a
COVID.
hat.
You
So
gotta
there's
earn a
only
hat.
one hat today.
That's
I've
it.
seen podcasts that I haven't been on. There's been 2 hats.
Got a haircut. That's right.
I had to.
I need to go out and get one of these hats because next time I'm coming in here, I'm wearing
You're
one of
wearing
these
one of
hats.
these? Okay, that was Boston Scully hats, by the
There
way.
you
So
go.
you might want to reach out to them. We love our hats. I actually have 6 of them in the back of the truck. And Tracy's like, which one are you going to wear today? And I go, I don't know. So I went with the all black.
There you go.
Great hats.
They are great hats.
I think that the expectation going forward is a pretty solid economy, pretty solid real estate market. That if somebody's waiting for that big,
That's the most important thing is
event or
stop
whatever it
waiting.
is, yeah,
Stop waiting because we're at 7.125% on a 30-year fix today, right? And if we end 2025 at 6.33, between the competition and the more buyers that will come out in the market if we get there, and the appreciation of the home value, you're not going to save yourself any money between 7.125 and 6.33 by waiting for that. And you're not going to get 5.5.
I think a lot of it comes down to how, when somebody's evaluating, is now the right time. How fast are you planning on turning around and moving? I mean, if it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years down the road, I don't understand why waiting to get something that's your own.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Why anybody would do that? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But it's just,
No.
I mean, I understand that a lot of people look at it and it's a math thing for them. But
Is it an excuse?
I think sometimes.
Is it an excuse? Do you think they're just waiting
What
for
is it,
the
analysis
interest lottery to hit
paralysis?
and it's never going to come?
No, I don't think they're waiting that much, but I think it's just
We're
analysis
still
by
busy.
paralysis.
And
Well, because we
that's-
work hard.
But we're still busy, and there's still stuff that's happening in the market. So there are enough people that are making that decision to go ahead and go forward. The people that aren't, it's very personal to them. I get that. There could be a reason why, but if it's just waiting for things to crash,
Yeah.
No crash.
That's the long wait that, you're not going to win on.
no.
You're not going to win on that. And so if you want to make a move and you can afford it, now's the time.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be waiting 6 months isn't going to change anything. Waiting a year isn't going to change anything. If you want to wait 10 years, maybe it'll change something. But
then you're 10 years behind.
you gave a landlord a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well,
depending
like
on
I
your
said, I
situation.
listen to other podcasts just to kind of, I educate myself trying on a daily basis. And I had a guy say this is the worst market he's ever worked in his life, and that he just can't see how to break through. He has investor clients. The money's not good
Investors,
for right now.
not a good
That's-
thing right now.
Yeah, he's he thinks it's smarter to rent right now than to buy. Is it?
Well, everybody's different, but I can tell you, I did better in 24 than my 24 was an increase over 23.
Same.
And
Same.
the start of this year feels like it's already moving faster.
Same.
So,
Uh,
I'm not going to give you specific numbers and
No, you don't.
I
rattle
get it.
off things. I'm just,
Yeah.
things are looking better in my opinion.
Well,
I think if people are working with investors and that's the
Their market.
meat of their market, I can't make the numbers work unless somebody is putting a ton of money down.
Yeah.
Well, then why did our commercial business pick up towards the end of the year? I mean, that's
Because-
carried us.
True, but we're selling to owner occupants mostly right now. I mean, we do have an apartment that's going to close here soon, but we're working with owners of businesses that are successful and they're growing their business. They're buying something to put their own business in. So I think the evaluation by those people is a little bit different. It's if I don't do it now, then I'm going to be too big to fit where I am.
But is that an important sign, right? It's okay. Businesses are starting to invest back into their businesses by getting bigger buildings because their growth took off in 24 or even 23, and they anticipate more. So all of a sudden, it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe
It
this
is a good
market's
sign.
not so bad.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I think it's a good sign as far as employment goes, and that's a big part of it.
We need people to get fired, man.
I don't want to see people get fired. That's for sure. I think that then you're talking about recessionary stuff, and rates may go down, but it's going to hurt a lot more people than if we just kind of plow through what we're doing now, which is hopefully growth in home prices closer to inflation rather than the exorbitant increases that we saw that price people out.
Yeah.
I think we need to maybe have a flat market for a while,
Yeah.
and that's fine. Let people's incomes catch up to be at least more comfortable to where housing prices are. Because right now, honestly, they're expensive. It's expensive. And rates have a big part of that, but I think that incomes also are a big part of that. So it is a good sign. Back to what you were saying,
Yeah.
that we're selling commercial buildings to owner-occupant businesses because their anticipation going forward is that their businesses are going to thrive. Otherwise, they wouldn't make that move,
Right.
Or
Yep.
they have been growing and they
They
continue
outgrew
to
where they were.
So those are all good signs too. I mean, if you need a bigger building, you probably have more employees, which means more jobs. So, I mean, it's not rocket science.
I guess I asked about the reason I brought up people losing their jobs is because I've heard in order for interest rates to come down, unemployment has to go up.
It's
And
the
you're
age-old-
laughing at that.
It's the age old good economy, unfortunately, will mean higher interest rates.
Right.
Bad economy will help the interest rates.
Right.
But is okay. So,
But
is
a
that how we wanna run
normalization-
our country?
No, it's like what Matt just said. It's normalizing it. It's
Okay.
just staying in, having a flat market for a while and getting some standardized. You're wondering what is the new norm for mortgage rates. If we can, if the new norm is 6.5 and we can get there and stay there for a while and people can just grow to know it better, because we're still in a spot where we're thinking about 3.5 and we're having to pay 7, and that's ridiculous, even though, as Matt mentioned earlier, over the history of mortgage rates, the average is 8, so we're below average still. So,
Okay, so if
it's just about getting to somewhere where between the rates and the values and the movement of both normalizes so people can kind of wrap their head around it more.
I would rather see the job market stay strong and incomes become
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
okay, we get a new president day after, let's just say, and this is all hypothetical. I don't care whose name's attached. Okay, and that person goes, you know what? Interest rates are too high. We need to fix this housing market. 6.25. Tuesday. What happens?
Independent.
What happens?
Well, rates are independent of
Understand?
policy,
I'm a fantasy
But policies
player.
can affect it.
that can be changed, and they can move. They can, the Fed can, work on moving their rates, and that could affect mortgage rates as a whole.
So
That
what
was-
Ryan and Matt politely said to me is basically the president does not control interest rates. It's the Fed.
not directly,
but not directly. But
Decisions
I think we all
and
get the
policies
point.
that they make
Yeah.
do affect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why the business community loves split Congresses. They want
turmoil.
they want it roadblocks everywhere. It's then they can anticipate what's going to happen or not happen, and I think that that's healthy for the process, and it's healthy for people's goal setting going forward to know that there's probably going to be fights happening, but nothing's going to get accomplished.
Bro, there's nothing better than overseas when the parliament fist fights. Have you ever seen that?
yeah,
I've seen a few.
You've never seen
Seen a
that?
few.
They're out there.
Yeah,
Oh my
there's a
God,
few
wouldn't that be
videos
great
out
if
there.
that was
a bunch of old dudes
just swinging, throwing hands, man,
fighting
throwing
each other.
hands.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that there's a lot of ways that the economy can stay strong. I think it's a wait and see, but as far as real estate goes, I think that everybody has to evaluate it on their own ability to pay for something, and if it fits for their life, not a bad time to buy.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up because I just don't have anything else to talk about. I know you all find that freaking amazing. Phoebe, got anything to say
There's
in
a
closing?
calendar. Let's mark the date.
Goodbye. It was nice. Thank you for including me.
Absolutely.
It's very
Ryan,
interesting.
in closing, what do you got?
It's a new year and ready to knock it out of the park. I think 2025 is going to be a great year for the real estate market in Tucson, and I'm excited about doing it.
I agree with that.
So, in closing, I just want to say I still love Taylor Swift. I just don't like to tie in for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm probably a little jealous because I kind of have a little crush on Taylor Swift. Nobody knows that. I'll come home and I'll find music playing if that's what happens in my house. But listen, if you are thinking about getting into this market and you want to educate yourself, this is the time. Do some investigating, do some processing, dig in a little deeper, and if you want to, pick up the phone and call Matt, myself, or Ryan, and even Phoebe. She does talk, I promise you. But this is the time to educate yourself, because the more you educate yourself, the more you come out of any real estate deal feeling like you've got the best deal possible because you knew what they were talking about. I'm John Smith. That's Matt the Bulldog Bollinger, signing off for Ryan Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Phoebe
got it.
Best.
Phoebe Best. Thanks.